My guest today is civil rights attorney T. Matthew Phillips. This is the second part of a two-part series on the family courts, and now we're going to talk about the family courts and money. So, in the first episode, he talked about how the family courts are unique. They're the first, countrywide court system designed almost purely to generate revenue. Um,
Mhm.
Talk about the major factors that lead you to that conclusion.
The amount of revenue the
Mhm.
family court generates is staggering. And
Mhm.
I've seen estimates where they say that the family court generates more revenue than all the other
Yeah.
court systems combined. Now, I'm talking about the federal courts, the
Mhm.
civil courts, all the workers' comp cases, the
Mhm.
personal injury, slip and fall, construction defect claims. I mean, you go on, class actions, antitrust, shareholder
Okay. Yeah.
derivative actions.
All that. Yep. Hmm.
It really generates a lot of money. And again, I have to believe that if justice is ever done in family court, it's purely happenstance because
Hmm.
it's not meant to dispense justice. Just ask yourself, when they designed your local county courthouse, did the architect remember the jury boxes? None of these courthouses even have jury boxes. That should be an alarming thing right there. They've really decided that here's a court where it's wild, wild west, and it's all held together by the family court bar, of whom I'm critical. I'm very critical of the family court bar because they're the kind of glue that holds this all together. They're just happy to
Hmm.
rip off clients wholesale, and they're not arguing. They understand not to argue the Constitution, and
Hmm.
that's a problem.
So you talked about the presumption of innocence not being readily found in the family court system. Let's move on to protective orders. We find that these are handed out pretty liberally in family courts, but there's family court protective orders, at least in Texas and criminal, and they're handled very differently. Can you talk about that?
Well, first of all, you have to understand, I think, is a threshold matter. There are two distinct types of domestic violence in America. There's the domestic violence where the victim has evidence of domestic violence, like a broken nose or a black eye or something. And then there are those domestic violence where there's no evidence at all. Now,
Hmm.
one would think if there's no evidence of domestic violence, that that would be a big zero. But the thing is, any allegation in family court will do. And if somebody's willing to allege that somebody tried to kill me, the judge is predisposed to believing the victim because the judge knows if they believe the victim, then the other person is going to lose custody. They're going to become a non custodial parent. They're going to have to pay child support. And remember, that money in child support is for the state. It's not for the custodial parent, it's for the state. And this happened back, again, I don't want to go too far
Go
afield,
ahead.
but this is really
Go
highly
there.
relevant.
Yeah.
Back, I guess it was in the 90s, they had problems with deadbeat dads. And so they petitioned, I guess, the federal government to allocate funding to clean up the deadbeat dad situation. And the states did. They cleaned up the problem and they handled the deadbeat dad situation. And then the states looked at one another and said, you know what? We made a lot of money taking care of these deadbeat dads. We need more deadbeat dads. I
Hmm.
mean, that's literally what happens so they can make more money. So they lower the threshold and they presume that that's why, like you're saying, they hand out these restraining orders like it's Halloween candy because they know that it's going to lead to a non custodial parent and that's going to make the money flow. It's my belief that the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment demands that both parents be treated equally, that every custody or divorce case should end with 50-50 physical legal custody.
So let's move on to psyche vows. These are pretty commonplace when there's a divorce or a child custody order, the order psyche vows on one or both parties, and you're saying that's an invasion on the parent's privacy.
Yes, it is. Very good. It is. Yes. Well, my thoughts as a threshold matter, the Fourth Amendment protects, our rights as citizens, and the government cannot come into your home and rummage through your bureau drawer unless they have a search warrant supported by probable cause,
Mhm.
meaning they think there's some kind of criminal activity going on. Well, ask yourself, what right does the government have to go rummaging through your mind? Does the government have is there a fair probability based on a totality of the circumstances that a search of your mind is going to reveal evidence of criminal activity? The point is, I believe that when a judge says they want mental health evaluation, the person should say, come back with a warrant. Just like they said, if you remember in Breaking Bad, come back with a warrant. They don't have probable cause to search your mind. And unless there's actually a search warrant supported by probable cause, I believe a mental health evaluation is totally unconstitutional.
They're saying like if you have depression, somehow you're a bad parent. Well, a lot of these parents are depressed because they haven't seen their children, and maybe they're having anxiety because they're facing false allegations in court. And it's interesting that they use that against you at that moment of vulnerability.
Yes, and that's a very good point. I mean, they know that anybody going through a custody battle is going to be,
Mm-hmm.
it's unsettling. And so so that's how they can get away with evaluating everybody poorly.
We could talk about this all day. I mean, it's fascinating. I think you've made a really clear case, as a lot of parents have seen that the family courts exist to make money, and they have found out a way to turn our children into commodities. Do you have any sign of hope? I mean, looking forward, you have this lawsuit that you're doing. And you look out across the country and you listen to these parents. Do you have any reason to be hopeful that this will
Yes.
change in our life? Okay, go ahead.
Well, I got to say, first of all, by the reaction, again, I've done class action lawsuits before. I had one against Monsanto. I had a class action. There was another one against the state of California. And the point is that I've never seen a response like this. Again, my phone is literally ringing off the hook. The emails
It's
are
not kind of
rolling
happy
in like
today.
crazy. And it's all positive. I'm not getting any criticism. And people are like, oh my God,
Yeah.
thank you, thank you, thank you. And so that really gives me hope because, yeah, this lawsuit has really struck a nerve with the population. The only question is, when is the mainstream media going to be allowed to do this? Because you know who controls the mainstream media. Every commercial on the mainstream media is going to be, Windex, Febreze,
Pharmaceutical.
Tide Pods, once a day this, once a day that. The pharmaceutical industrial complex controls the airwaves and the Madison Avenue type advertising. And so that's why there's a mainstream blackout on family court issues. And God bless you guys for having the courage. And I got to tell you that when we did the story with the Davis Vanguard, I didn't have anything to do with it, but there's an article in the
Yeah, I
Davis
read it. Huh?
Vanguard.
Sure.
Their server literally crashed. Like, I'm not kidding you. Because of all you get a couple 100,000, traffic going to a website. And so I am very hopeful because a lot of people are realizing that this is a problem. Again, I think California and judges have a right to control the proceedings and their judicial policy. But when it drops below the minimum, that's a problem. So
Okay.
we're very hopeful.
Well, thank you, Matthew. On a personal note, thanks for giving a lot of parents hope out there, which is basically what you're saying. And there are a lot of parents who are, I'm sure, excited and hopeful for the first time in their life that they may, see their children again. It's a very serious thing we're talking about. But we'll keep following this case, and we appreciate you making time for the Fourth Weekly. Given all the national exposure you're getting, and we wish you guys the best in your pursuits there.
Well, thank you very much. You're very kind.
Thank you.